everybody. Welcome to episode 264 of a Wrestling Gal podcast, providing you with the female perspective on all things wrestling. Join me, your host and wrestling enthusiast, Ella J, as today I am joined by one of the UK's brightest new stars, Lily Winter. Now let's chat. Hello, everybody. Today I am joined by UK superstar Lily Winter. So how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm off work. I've got an exciting weekend planned. I've just had my hair done. Can't complain.
It's a good day. I'm fantastic. It's a good day. It's a good Friday to be chatting with you today. So before we get into everything, your journey in pro wrestling, tell us about your new hair.
So I've just got back from the hairdressers and I'm going to watch My Chemical Romance tomorrow, which I'm really excited about. So I wanted something a little different, a little bit emo, I think. So I have got the front of my hair dyed pink, so just kind of the front pieces, and then the rest is still bleach blonde.
Now, is My Chemical Romance, would you say, like your normal music taste, or does it like vary for you?
I definitely have like a varied music taste, but I do like, so My Chemical Romance when I was like 15, 16 were, what I was really into, and they've not toured for 10 years, so this is really exciting. But yeah, I tend to be into bands. I go to a lot of gigs, watch a lot of live music, and really missed that in the pandemic. So I'm just so excited that we can do that again, and that bands who aren't from the UK can actually come over and play for us. So
Yeah, I feel like especially during the pandemic, like concerts was something like I always did like at least 3 times a year. And I've gotten to get back into it in the last like 6 months since things have really opened back up. And it's just like a whole other experience that I didn't think that we might have taken for granted. Like I missed concerts a lot during the first like year and a half of lockdown. It was wild.
same. I'm so glad that they're back.
Me too. And I mean, like, you have had like a very interesting journey because I mean, before you even started doing in-ring work and all of that, I mean, you fulfilled a lot of non-wrestling roles as well with ring announcing, presenting, and social media and all of that stuff. But I'm very curious to know more about your ring announcing debut a few years ago.
Okay, so I guess I was training as a wrestler at the time, but I wasn't sure I was very good at it or how far it would take me, and I kind of wanted to just be involved in wrestling in some way. So alongside like training, I just kind of started to do ring announcing just on like small trainee shows. And it kind of, because I'm not like a really like loud extroverted person, that's just not who I am. So like being in front of an audience and stuff is like doesn't come naturally to me. So it was really good experience to actually just be on shows and get used to being in front of people without having to worry about wrestling as well. So yeah, so then kind of did it on a few other places as well. So probably the biggest promotion that I do it for is Catch Pro Wrestling in Manchester. So yeah, so I mean, I'm planning to kind of leave ring announcing behind, but still doing it a little bit at the moment as I like start to wrestle more. So
I think it definitely gets you that experience because I myself am like not very extroverted at all either, but it gets you like your voice out there and projecting and like in front of it, talking in front of an audience essentially too. And I mean, going into that, did you kind of have any like certain study material, or how else did you prepare yourself when going into ring announcing for the first few times?
So I got lots of different advice from different people. So some people were telling me to like watch ring announcers, to watch like Howard Finkel and Lillian Garcia and stuff. And then other people were kind of saying, oh, just be yourself and maybe don't try to like do that kind of ring announcy typical voice too much. So I think now that I've done it for a while, I kind of just do it my own way. And I don't know, I just think wrestling should be fun. So like, the shows I do, it's just I'm not in front of 20,000 people in an arena, so I just try to have fun with it and yeah, just kind of I don't know. I think I'm probably a little bit goofy when I'm kind of, doing the in between match little like check-ins with the crowd and stuff. But I just want to have fun. So I just kind of found my own way to do it, I guess.
Of course, I mean, you gotta have fun. I mean, it can't be serious all the time. It's so important, especially to have fun, especially in your like everyday work and all of that too. But I mean, it probably can't all be easy. So maybe like what was like the biggest challenge for you when you were first adjusting to ring announcing and like these non-wrestling roles for you?
I think it was just so I'd always like at the beginning of a show be like super nervous, and it would take me a while to settle into it. So maybe like you could maybe tell that I was a little bit nervous, maybe I was a little shaky, just some nervous energy. But then once I like warm up, then I was like, oh, okay, I can do this. And actually, we're at the interval, and I've done half a show, and I've only got half a show left. So yeah, I think just those kind of nerves at the beginning, and just that first bit where you have to speak on the mic and you're not sure how the crowd's going to be. Yeah, so I think it's always just the beginning of the show that's like the scary bit.
Would you say that those same nerves have maybe translated over though to like now you're in-ring action like I just saw against Harley Hudson and all of that? Would you say you're kind of that same way before you go out there before the curtain now?
It's different.
Okay.
Um, I don't know how to explain it, but it does feel different. And I think because like so my wrestling personality is not very nice. So whereas, a ring announcer, I'm quite like, happy, smiley, a little different vibe. But with wrestling, kind of got to have my game face on. So I definitely um feel a difference in it, but still get nervous before wrestling, definitely.
I mean, especially too with like playing a heel, I feel like you have to like kind of embody like a different thing before you go out there instead of like the bubbly personality you would say for like ring announcing.
Yeah, completely different. But that's what's so good is that LWF, where me and Harley Hudson wrestled last week, I turned on her when I was a ring announcer. So I hit her with the microphone, and everyone was very, very shocked. There was like an audible gasp from the crowd. So that's been like a very clear transition from this nice ring announcer girl to this mean wrestler.
I think that's cool too that you can tie in ring announcing and then translate it over to like in ring performance. So we don't see a lot. I mean, there's managers that have like transitioned over to like in ring action too. I think it's really cool that you're like multifaceted in both. I mean, should the occasion ever pop up again, I feel like you'll be ready to be able to pull double duty if needed.
Yeah, that would be double pressure.
But I mean, you've worked in social media too for a couple of promotions too. So like what was your exact role or position with those? I'm very curious.
That's just kind of something that I fell into. So I train at Future Shock Academy. So
Yes.
Future Shock's a promotion based in Manchester. And so basically, as a trainee, we help out at the shows, we help set up the ring, and sort of just have duties to do during the show. And yeah, some reason I just kind of fell into doing social media for them. Um, so I don't have like any work experience in doing that kind of thing. If you look at my social media accounts, I'm clearly not like I don't really have like I'm trying to have more of a presence on social media now, but it's not something that I'm like really that on top of, to be honest. So yeah, just kind of just something that I fell into, and it's just yeah, it's cool. You get to see all the action and film it, and then yeah, just kind of pick what you want to show from a live show on the social media account.
Like highlights and that stuff?
Yeah, so just try to film any like cool spots, get all their entrances because that's nice to for people to be able to tag all the wrestlers in the
Yeah.
story so then they can put it on their own story and just yeah. So anything
Yeah.
that's cool.
Social media is a whole other game, especially if you're like wanting to get your name out there and stuff. It's so hard because there's so many different platforms and so many different like ways you have to like act or like present yourself on those platforms where like Instagram is more photo, video, like reel based, Twitter. I mean, you can post photos into, but it's a lot of like typing and all of that. And you have to like is very different like formats on each social media too.
Yeah, I kind of stopped using Twitter, but now I'm like, right, okay, I need to use it just for wrestling. So not for anything really personal, but I will just use it for wrestling. So that's kind of what I've decided on.
Twitter is a whole entity, so I
Yeah.
completely understand it. It's very daunting sometimes, but I mean, and we were talking about social media though, but I found it very ironic though that you kind of you almost started your own group wrestling review show on YouTube. So, what was that initial plan for that with you and your friends going into that?
Okay, so this is quite a while ago. So this is actually, I think this is before I actually started training. So I kind of got into like watching like British indie wrestling in
Mhm.
about 2015, I think. And I started to go to shows, and I wanted people to go to shows with, and I sort of roped all my friends into coming. So I took them to like a progress show. They were all like blown away, and there was a point where there'd be like 10 of us going, and it became like kind of like a habit really. And then we started to go kind of further afield, and we'd be, you know, a lot of our social life would be going to wrestling shows and traveling to see them. We traveled to Germany, we traveled to New York, and we just had this idea that we were going to review a show that we went to watch that was just at the comedy club down the road from me. And we did film the review, and this video still exists on my computer. But no one has ever seen it apart from us. And it probably doesn't ever need to see the light of day.
I
But it was just like, I think it was actually like someone else who had the idea that the three of us, because we're sisters, should start our own like YouTube.
Now I know we won't ever see the light of day of Burn It Down, I believe it was called.
It was,
Um,
yeah.
what was one of the things that you reviewed on there though?
Um, so the show that we did, it was a promotion that doesn't exist anymore. So we used to go to what's called Tuesday Night Graps at the Frog and Bucket in Manchester. So we live just down the road from there, and it had a few different kind of promotions running it. So it is running again now with a different promotion. The Schadenfreude guys were running it before the pandemic, and prior to that, it was a promotion called Lucha Forever. So that was when we reviewed it. Um, so yeah, it's just us being really goofy and making jokes that probably only we think are funny because we're sisters and we have a lot of in jokes.
See, I mean, I can't push you to do it. I think that would be something so funny to look back on one day, though. I mean, I feel like that happens though with a lot of like things. There's a lot of ideas, and then once you do something, you're like, oh, I don't know. I've had a few of those in my life. But I mean, I feel like too, you're now like more acquainted with being on camera. Would it be something that you would ever consider like revisiting, maybe?
Maybe, yeah, but I don't know if there's an audience for me reviewing wrestling shows, to be honest. But
I think there is. Granted, there's a lot of been like podcasts and shows popping up during the pandemic. I feel like there's always an audience for that, though. There's so many different like avenues in wrestling, like reviews, predictions, interviews, podcasts, like retro stuff, like fantasy. There's so many like niches within. I think there's an audience for it. But again, it's totally up to you, and I totally understand.
yeah, one of the things that I would like to do is that I'd love my sisters to somehow be involved with me as a wrestler. So neither of them wrestle, but like a lot of people know us as the Burns. They know that I have sisters who are like
Mhm.
my best friends, and I'd love for them to just come out and like, be like my managers, or just like, coming out with me and being mean, and they always look really glamorous. I just think it would look good. So, I'd love someone to put that.
You never say never. You better start telling them and better start training.
Yeah, they keep saying, because we did like wrestling training when we were like
Uh-huh.
teenagers. They're like, it's fine, we know how to take a bump. And I'm like, do you know? It's been a long time since you've done that. But they're convinced that they'd be fine. So
Gotta get to in-ring shape.
yeah.
No, I wanted to pivot a bit because I found out one of your, or at least was your favorite WWE superstar. Is it still the Miz for you?
I would say that probably my favorite wrestler of all time is Chris Jericho. But I absolutely loved The Miz for like years. I just loved what he was doing. I remember for like my 20th or my 21st birthday, my friends who did not know anything about wrestling bought me like his t-shirt, which I still have, and they made me like a custom birthday card that was to do with The Miz. But I just love him as a heel. I think he's just great.
He's fantastic. He's one of my favorites of all time for sure. And I feel like, at least initially, I mean, maybe because I was really young and didn't understand kayfabe, I started out hating him and then got to really respect his heel work in that. Was that kind of the same, or were you like always like a Miz girl?
No, I think yeah, it was when I definitely when I got older and I kind of started to appreciate. I think I just always appreciate anyone who's like really good on the mic is what I like was really drawn to then. So like Chris Jericho is another example of
Mhm.
people who can just talk and talk. And like the Miz might not be like the fanciest wrestler, but as a character, he's just so good. And obviously, he's been wrestling for years now. And actually, if you'd looked at him when he kind of first started out, you probably wouldn't have expected him to like be as big and go as long as he has.
No, when you think of like real world chick magnet Miz starting
Yeah.
off with like the faux hawk and all of that, and now he's like this I mean, the most must see WWE superstar, the A-lister. I mean, he's just transformed himself over the last 20 years. It's insane.
Yeah. And I love Maurice too. I used to love her back in her first run when she was a heel as well. So
I love that they're together. They're just like whole couple goals, honestly.
yeah, so well suited.
And I mean, now that you've started to and compete more in ring competition, does that kind of coincide with your CrossFit work? Or can you kind of just walk me through your daily workout routine?
Okay, so I'll give you some background.
Okay.
So, I actually started weightlifting when I started wrestling training. So when I first started training and found it really hard and was like, "Oh, is this for me?" I started to go to the gym, and like my experience of the gym had just been like going on every cardio machine and not knowing what I was doing. Never lifted weights before, so I got into weightlifting through wrestling and absolutely fell in love with it. So I absolutely love being able to lift stuff and feel strong. And it's like, exercise that I actually enjoy. But I started CrossFit less than a year ago actually. So last summer at some point, I thought wanted to give CrossFit a go. I'd been working with like a coach who'd been teaching me Olympic lifting, which is used in CrossFit a lot. So at the moment, I just kind of I go to my local CrossFit box, which is just like round the corner, and just train in the class like probably 4 or 5 times a week. So I go to like the 6 o'clock in the morning class before work. I'm an early workout person. Some people think I'm crazy, but I'm just always so tired after work. So yeah, I'm just doing that at the moment. But I am competing in my first CrossFit competition in July. So I'm looking at maybe just getting a coach for the next couple of months to kind of maybe it would be nice to just do a little bit better than what I'm expecting to do. Because I'm expecting to be seeded like quite low in the kind of, there's going to be like elite athletes in this competition there's like 4 categories, so I'll be in the bottom one. But it would be nice to just do better than what I expect.
Yeah, I believe you're supposed to do it in February, but then that was kind of set back your first CrossFit Open, correct?
Yeah, well, so I did do a part of the CrossFit
Okay.
Open, but I had COVID for one of the workouts.
Yeah.
For that was the third time I had COVID. So yeah, I couldn't take part in it properly because you only had so many days to do the workout, and I was isolating for all those days.
Well, makes sense. Well, best of luck to you. I mean, that's finally, it's got to be, I mean, exciting, but also probably daunting going into your first CrossFit Open. But I mean, you've definitely worked hard for it. So I'm super excited to see how you do and everything.
Oh, thank you. I think I actually might be more nervous about that than I have been about wrestling.
I feel like that's like a whole, I mean, that's more like a competition to it. Like if you're thinking about it too, I mean, wrestling is its whole thing. And maybe because you've gotten used to the reps in wrestling and this is more new to you. So maybe, I mean, and I
Yeah.
feel like it's probably more intense. I mean, wrestling itself is intense, but I feel like CrossFit is a whole entity itself.
Yeah, and that's in the new bit to me. So I can do the lifting the weights, that's fine, but all the like really intense cardio side of it, I'm not so good at. So that's what I'm worried about. But it'll be fun, I'm sure.
And I mean, now that you've transitioned now more to like an in-ring presence, I saw you might have had another ring name in mind initially with Lily Lazara. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. So what made you switch then to Lily Winter?
So wow. So Lazara is actually the surname of a singer in one of my favorite bands, Taking Back Sunday. And I liked the alliteration, and I always knew I wanted like Lily because it's my middle name.
Mhm.
It was my dad's mum's name, and it's really weird because like all through my life, Lily has been like a name I rarely hear, and for some reason in the UK, it's just like completely exploded as a name. So it's like in the top 10 baby names for girls now, which is mad to me because I've hardly met any Lilies. There are no
Mhm.
Lilies like in my class at school, anything like that, and now it's really popular. So winter, I just like it. One of my friend's maiden names is actually Winter. So she's married now, so she's no longer a Winter. So, but I've taken it. So I just like it, and no one else was using it that I know of. So yeah, that's the story.
I feel like it too, it fits like when I think of like winter, like you have that silvery vibe going in with your holographic gear. So I
Yes.
was very interested to know like what were some of like the inspirations like behind your holographic ring gear, which I love by the way.
Thank you. I just love silver. Like I know I've got pink hair, but so I'm not like I don't wear a lot of color. And so I definitely wasn't gonna have like any kind of bright ring gear or anything. Like you mostly just see me wearing black. So yeah, I just love silver. I just kind of I think initially I was always thinking of maybe something a little maybe spacey, or a little gothic. Like, it's just kind of like different things that I like, different aesthetics. It's my first set of ring gear, so I'm sure there'll be lots of like new ideas to come. But silver was just the color that I settled on.
And I like that too. Like I said, I feel like it goes with the whole like wintry, icy kind of vibe too. I mean,
Yes.
obviously you have so much room to explore. You have your whole career ahead of you. But I mean, from your perspective, like today, who has the best ring gear game or aesthetic that you just really appreciate in pro wrestling today, do you think?
So my favorite ring gear has got to be Tonga's. I just absolutely love everything that she wears. And the designer who does her ring gear is just amazing. And I'd love her to design some gear for me, and she has a massive waiting list because she's so good. But yeah, I really like Tonga's wrestling gear the
Is
best.
it is it Empress I'm thinking of
Yes,
that designs
Empress.
her
Yeah,
gear?
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a couple other people on the UK that she designs gear for, and it's always amazing.
Yeah, you can kind of tell which is hers because she's kind of got like there's like a signature look about it, even though they're all different, and you can just, yeah, you can tell because she's just so good.
I know too. And I mean, looking towards your future to close things out, what are maybe some of your personal or professional goals that you'd like to accomplish in the next few years?
Um, so one of my wrestling goals for this year is to make my debut on Future Shock. So because I train with them, and there's there's a few people that I'd like to wrestle at some point, in the next couple of years. So I'm trained by Lana Austin. So I would love to get to wrestle her on a show. I'd love to wrestle Tonga as well. Done quite a lot of training with her. There's quite a lot of women on in kind of like the northwest wrestling scene here who are all killing it everywhere, and I'd love to wrestle all of them. One of my best friend in wrestling is Kelly Van Ness, and we have trained together like so much. Done loads of wrestling in training together, but we just want someone to book us in a singles match somewhere, so I can't wait for that to happen. So yeah, I think that'll be fun.
Someone's got to book that.
I hope so.
I really hope so too. And to now actually close things out, I'm very jealous that you've gotten to travel to Iceland because that's been on my bucket list since like forever. So can you please tell me more about your time in Iceland?
Okay, so I went a few years ago now, and yeah, it was so good. I was actually ill the whole time, so
Oh
I
my
never get
gosh.
ill. Yeah, so I went to Iceland at the end of 2018, I think, and I haven't actually been like that ill since then. So I like never get like a cold or anything. And the whole time we were there was like a storm as well. But it's so nice. Like it's really small, so like wherever you stay, you can just walk everywhere, and it's so pretty. Um, Great places to eat and drink. Loads of excursions you can go on. I would definitely go back. Um, we didn't get to see the Northern Lights because of the storm, but like it didn't even matter because we had such a good time. So it's definitely on my list to go back to.
Oh, I'm so jealous of that. Hopefully, I mean, even with wrestling, you'll be able to. I don't know if there might be an Iceland wrestling scene. I don't actually know. So, but I'm sure there's a scene wherever you go. Hopefully, you get to travel the world more too.
Oh yeah, I mean that'd be great. I'm going to Berlin next month, and that'll be the first time that I've been on a plane in years because of the pandemic, and I'm so excited to actually be able to do that.
Right. It's a whole other experience. But Lily, before I let you go, can you please tell the listeners where they can find you on all your social medias?
Yes, so my Twitter handle is at Claire Lily Byrne, and my Instagram handle is Lily Winter MCR, which means Manchester, not My Chemical Romance, as someone once asked me. But I mean, I can understand why they got confused, but it does mean Manchester.
You are going to see MCR.
I
So,
am, yeah.
and by the way, that's Byrne for Burn, not Burn. So
Yes,
just an important distinction there.
the Irish way.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Lily. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Ella. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.